They're saying that Trump is in the process and is expected, this is straight out of the White House, is expected to dismantle the Department of Education. Make sure y'all hit a like. Let's rock out and find out what's going on. Let's get to it.
So today, President Trump pushing forward with his plan to abolish the Department of Education completely when he signs an executive order making it official. President Reagan was the first to call for this. Fox News contributor Bill Bennett served as Reagan's education secretary, and he joins us now. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Lawrence. How are you?
So, good, brother. So this is a few things that are going to come out in this executive order. He's going to direct the education secretary to facilitate closures of departments. He's going to return education authority to the states, continue to ensure effective, uninterrupted delivery of services and programs and benefits, and he's going to prevent programs from receiving funds from advancing DEI or gender ideology. Is this a good thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing. In terms of far-reaching, I think what he's doing in higher ed may have a greater impact overall, but we'll see. There's a question as to whether he can send a lot of this back to the states, which is one of the main things they're doing, without congressional authority. These programs were created by the states, by the legislatures, federal legislature, and he may need their approval. But I would actually go one better, one tougher than the president. Instead of just sending it back to the states, send it back to the people. I mean, do you really want to give 15% of your grants to the state of California and say, do with this whatever you want? I don't think so. Why not send it directly to the people and let them, in the form of scholarships or grants or vouchers, whatever you want to call them, use it to take it to the school of their choice? That's what I think I'd recommend.
So basically, and do you know how, think about it from this lens, right? Because I always like to break it down from a C student's perspective. What Trump is basically doing, and he's been doing this with all of the departments and all of his executive orders, is that he's basically cutting the red tape. That's what you can look at it as. When you see these Democratic politicians and they'll use anything as clickbait to try to scare you, what Trump is basically doing is he's removing the barriers to entry, and he's saying, let's cut the red tape. Let's cut all of the bureaucratic process. Let's also cut all of the department heads and all of this money that we allocating to all of these different people. And we want to give all of the choices back to the individual states. He's giving the power, and we don't need all of this oversight. We don't need all of this bureaucratic nonsense. He's giving all of the power back to the states. It reminds you of when they were campaigning during this election cycle, the Democrats, and they were saying, well, Trump wants to take away your rights to do what you want to do with your body. He wants to control women's bodies. Well, you've seen none of that. You know why you've seen none of that? You know why you've seen no Democrats talk about it, even though it was the number one, number two issue that was on a Democratic ticket in order to try to get Kamala Harris elected, is because it was a non-issue. Because it was already, the abolishment of Roe versus Wade was basically allowing for people in the individual states, because your legislators are elected by the people. The people then determine on the ballots what happened in their states. Even in conservative states, and he would use Ohio as an example, they voted to allow for abortion to still be legal in Ohio. So what he's basically saying is the federal government has enough on its hands. It has enough on its hands. We don't need to do anything except for distribute the resources to the places that it's supposed to go. In this case, the states, so that they determine what education look like. We are putting this on the back of the legislators and the governors on the states. We don't need the Department of Education continuing to have all of this oversight and all of this bureaucratic nonsense that is basically not freeing up and ruining the education of our students. Now, your state, your education department, the place where you at, will be evaluated and judged, and how they manage the fiscal budget, it will be judged based off of how well they manage it, and it can't fall back up to the federal government. So when you say he's abolishing the Department of Education, he's basically clearing the way for you to actually hold your legislators accountable and also mandate funding so that they are teaching the right things instead of teaching diversity, equity, and inclusion, putting books and putting resources and putting things inside of your schools, inside of your books, so that your teachers are not overglorified babysitters, but that the states then take responsibility of what's happening with their students and not just rolling that back up to the federal government. I see it as a good thing. I don't see anything wrong with it. And more importantly, I believe that our education system and the education departments up to this point has been abysmal anyway. And you can't just throw money at the problem. You actually have to solve for the solutions. You can't just say, hey, man, we just going to throw money at the problem. That does not solve for it. It does not solve for it. You need to solve for the culture. You have to solve for the funding issues and the problems. And we have to stop allowing for these institutions, especially before college, but especially college also. We cannot allow them to indoctrinate our children. They should be teaching math, science, geography, logic, right? I wouldn't even mind them teaching home ec anymore, right? We need to be teaching real things and giving real skills like other countries that are way ahead of us, instead of spending all of our time teaching our children what to think and how they should hate the federal government and how to allow for themselves to get indoctrinated so that they can then go off to college and get more of the same thing. We can't. I personally believe what's going to happen is people are going to start looking at the states the same way that they look at your individual school districts. When we were coming up, a lot of times it was more ideal for you to get somebody. This was the finesse. You would change your address, or you would go and stay with your uncle, or you would change your address over to a suburban location so that you could then be able to go to the schools that's in that particular area. And so we kind of despise some of the schools that was in the city because the culture was trash. And so you would change your address over to somebody, or to an address from a relative or somebody else that was in a completely different city or a completely different district, so you can get a better education. I believe that people are going to start looking at states the same way. They're going to start looking at states the same way.
Additionally, Lawrence, if I may, you notice in all these discussions, we're always talking about the scores in math and reading.
Yeah.
One of the ways we do that is through the National Center for Education Statistics, which houses the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress. That's the place where we have the barometer that measures what our kids are learning. Don't throw that baby out with the bathwater, please.
Yeah, you were talking about those test scores, so let's get into some of that.
Yeah, sure.
69% of fourth graders are below basic level.
I'll tell you that it's a lot of people that's in high school. I think one of the worst things was the No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind absolutely destroyed people. And then you had all of these Room 9 kids. Some of y'all may not be familiar with what Room 9 is. Room 9 is the room that's in the middle of the hallway that was the closest to the bathroom, where all of the kids never got a chance to leave the classroom. And some of them had helmets on. The Room 9 kids got mixed up with everybody else. And then now y'all think that all of these people is normal, and these are the ones that y'all getting pregnant by. Room 9 kids can't think for themselves, but they strong. They strong. They got that strong strength. Y'all know that strength. I can't say the word, but you know the strength. Some things we can't say, some things we can. But the Room 9 kids, they all got mixed in. It's a lot of kids. A lot of y'all cannot read past the second and third grade level. Some of y'all are having kids, but you know you can't help them with their homework. Some of y'all are having kids, but you can't even help them with their homework. It says the nation's report cards is that most kids can't meet basic reading standards. You can't even help them with their homework. Hey, Mom, I'm having a geometry problem. Hey, Mom, I'm having an algebra problem. Hey, Mom, I'm having a calculus problem. What is y equals mx plus b? What do you mean? You doing your alphabet? What do you mean y-axis, x-axis? What do you mean? Huh? What? Well, no, listen. It's rise over run. And when you do fractions and you have a whole number, you basically just put a 1 under it. So it's rise over run, okay? Y equals mx plus b, right? You want to make sure that you put the dot on the x-axis. What do you mean solve for y? What? Solve for who? Can't help your children with their homework. Can't even read past the third grade level. Keep telling them to get mad at the teacher because you ain't doing nothing and you can't teach them. Keep on having your girl work and she can't be a stay-at-home mom because y'all shame stay-at-home moms and they can't help them with their homework either. You don't even know what I said, do you? Why MX plus B? I'm so confused. That must be that new math. It ain't no new math. It's math. That's that new math that they teach them. They got some new kind of math. I ain't never heard of that math before. What's that? That's that new math? No, it's the same math. It's math. What are you talking about? New math? Ain't no new math. It's that new. That's the new stuff. And let me get I know they got an app for that. Let's just go ahead and solve for it. Answers two.
20% of eighth graders are below the basic levels of math. 61% of fourth graders are below the basic level, and 78% of eighth graders are below the basic level. I mean, this is a national tragedy. And I don't think it's a funding issue.
No, it's not. It's a national catastrophe. We have to raise our standards. So when you send this money back to the states or to the people,
I'm a C student, but I ain't crazy. I know what I'm talking about. I know what y'all really dealing with. I told you I'm really paying attention to what's going on in the streets.
Send it to the people. You're not going to have a problem with a Gavin Newsom. Parents are, for the most part, large part, are going to pick the right schools and they're going to up the standards. Look what's happening around the country. Parents are starting these classical academies.
That's right.
Schools that want to teach the right things about character, as well as to love the country and math and reading. And the reading, of course, is critical by the third grade. The scores you cited, Lawrence, it's interesting, are pretty much the same as they were in 1979 before the department was established.
But the
so
fund
we've
has
gone
gone
about,
up.
we've spent all this money and we're pretty much back where we were in 79. Yeah. So there's a better way to do it.
There has
the
to
states
be.
are good, but the states are better, but the people are best.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I'm not sitting here on Fox and Friends if my town of Garland, Texas didn't have choice of schools. But you're right, it has to be with the parents because look at Illinois. They're trying to take the power away from the parents there. It's a fascinating conversation. Bill, thank you so much.
You betcha. Thank you, Lawrence.
Somebody said, a troll, somebody that's always in here problematic or whatever, says, why don't Anton want other black kids to have what he had? What did I have? What exactly did I have? What is it that I don't want y'all to have? I want y'all to be able to read. I want you to be able to do math. I want you to be able to comprehend. I want you to be able to write a paragraph or write a 5-paragraph paper to where you have a thesis or a hypothesis, an educated guess, and then have your 3 supporting sentences and then do your subsequent paragraphs to support each of those things and then have a conclusion to where you reinforce or decide whether or not your thesis or your hypothesis was actually proven to be correct. What is it that I don't want you to have? I know you like my attention, so I'm gonna give it to you. What is it that I don't want you to have? I go to the schools and I speak to the kids. I'm in the schools. I do free speeches and I go and work with the children. Look at this retard. You went to private school and your dad got you a job. No, I went to private school in middle school as a result of going to and see, you need to listen because I tell these stories all the time. I went to public schools, Detroit public schools, Hampton Elementary up until 6th grade. I was starting to get into gangs and stuff. And so instead of my father buying a new car, what he did was he got a second job and he sent me and my brother to UAD Jesuit. All right. Paid tuition for 2 years. And then I wound up going to Cass Technical High School, which is a Detroit public school. My dad never got me a job. My brother got me a job after high school. Okay? So listen. I don't want you to be dumb. I don't want you to be stupid. I want your kids to not be crazy. Shut up and listen. You got 2 ears and a mouth for a reason. You can't have what I have because you have a broken household. You can't have what I have because your father left your mother because your daddy was a Rolling Stone and your mother was a prostitute. That's why you can't have what I have. You don't get the privilege because your parents are supposed to do what they're supposed to do and make the sacrifices. You can't have what I have because your family is stupid. And instead of you holding your family accountable, you want to come on here and you want to talk to me as though I owe you something. I don't owe you nothing but an ass whooping. I owe you a truth. The truth is that you need to go and talk to your ancestors because they was trash. I guarantee you that your father, your mother didn't even tell you who your real father is. You don't even know what your lineage is. You can't have what I have because the thing that I tell y'all to do and not to break up your households, not to be broken, not to lay down, not to carry before you marry and all of this stuff, you fight against it because you're an idiot. You're dumb. You dumb. Your parents is dumb. Everything about y'all is dumb. And at some point, you going to have to come to the conclusion, I don't want to be dumb no more. Stop looking to me to be your daddy. I'm not your father. Stupid. You dumb. And your mama dumb. And just because she old don't mean she going to heaven. She was a hoe. She was a whore. And she gonna bust hell wide open. She busted open for a real one. She was out here getting used and abused. She was giving up that box to everybody in the neighborhood. Go find your daddy. Keep asking me why you can't. Because my dad was a good dad. That's not privilege. That's called doing the thing that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have a job. You're supposed to raise your kids. You're supposed to be a tax-paying citizen. You're supposed to make sure that you do the thing you're supposed to do for your children and for your wife. It's not abnormal. That's not privilege. You just got PTSD because you grew up as a crack baby. Crack baby. Crackhead, crack baby. You're missing something up here. Shouldn't have never been born. Your mama should have swallowed you. Crack baby.
But we start this morning with President Trump, who's expected to sign an executive order this afternoon designed to be first steps in dismantling the
Department. Well, your name is in all caps because you don't know how to read lowercase. You're a crack baby. I know you're a crack baby because anybody that put their name in all caps is a crack baby. Because they got to look at their name like this.
Department of Education. He has signaled this move for weeks, but we still need congressional approval to fully shutter this government agency. So I want to bring in CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman. He's joining me now from the White House to talk about this. Willie James, the White House. Questions over the president's authority to do this. What are we learning?
Hey there, Vlad. Good to be with you. Well, the White House says that this is about returning the power for education to the states. Now, it's unclear how the different types of funding that the Department of Education takes in.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. I don't want to crack on you. I don't want to spend the next 20 minutes going off on you and your lineage. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Once it's dismantled, but as you pointed out perfectly, the president would need Congress's support to be able to essentially end the Department of Education. This is something that the White House has telegraphed for weeks, as you mentioned as well, but this is the beginning stages, this executive authority to dismantle the Department of Education. Unclear if it will include job cuts as well. Remember, that is something that has already happened with half of the workforce at the Department of Education.
Man, skip all of this. Let's go to the next story. Let's get off of this. Department of Education being dismantled this morning. I'll continue to keep you guys updated. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications.